Ladies and gentlemen, we are starting topic 3 with vocabulary. So away we go. Okay, and put the date. I'm not writing it because it depends on what day. If you're doing it Monday or Tuesday, we shall see. But topic 3, vocabulary. They are going to be 3-column notes. So we are going to fold it right about there, and right about there. So we have 3 columns. We will have our word, our definition, and our example, okay? That's the whole purpose of 3-column notes. So I'll just put word/term. And then we have definition in our second column. And then our third column is example or some sort of picture or diagram to help us remember what it is. Okay, so the first word that we are working on, hi Charlie, is product. Okay, that is not a new math word. You are familiar with that. So write in product. Okay, and the product is what? Think about it. It should be popping into your head because you should know this word. The product is the answer to a multiplication problem. The answer to a multiplication problem. Okay, so if we were to say, 3 times 12 equals 4, 3 times 12 equals 4. Sorry, equals 12. Our product is 12. Okay? That's product. Okay, so we're going to move on to the next term. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, this is a video. Pause it if you haven't finished writing what I have. Easy. I do like to skip a line to start our next word. And remember, it's word or term because there are multiple words in this. This is the associative property of multiplication. Okay? Associative property of multiplication. Wow, that's a big one. Okay? So we have the associative property of multiplication, which means you can change the grouping of the factors and the product stays the same. Okay, so you can change the grouping of the factors, and there's my cursive and, right? It kind of looks like a, not cursive and, it looks like a cursive plus. It's just a short way of saying and. You can change the grouping of the factors and the product stays the same. So you see product, and you remember the word is right there. Okay? So, here's our example. If we take, again, this same one here, 3 times 4, and we group it, and then multiply that times 2, you're going to come up with the same answer if you multiplied this by this grouping. Notice, 3, 3, 4, 4, 2, 2. You're gonna come up with the same answer. Okay. Real quick, I'm gonna break it down so that you can see that. So 3 times 4 is, well, we did it up there, right? The product of that is 12. Okay, and then we're gonna multiply that by 2. Now let's do the same thing here. We're gonna do 4 times 2 is 8. Okay, and then we're gonna just bring this down just like we brought that one down, and 3 times that. So if we do continue the multiplication, it's kind of light, it is in pencil, sorry guys. Can you see it? Okay, well, 12 times 2 is what? 24. 3 times 8 is what? 24. So do you see, it doesn't matter if it's all the same digits. We can group it any way we want because it will still come out equaling the same. Okay? All right, so moving on to the next term. Okay, and the next term is factor. Ooh, look at that right there. So we're going to remember, we know these words. Now, product, you've seen before. Factor, you've seen before 5th grade as well, so you should know this one already. But a factor is the number that's being multiplied by another factor. A factor times a factor equals your product, okay? Numbers that are being multiplied together. Okay, so I'll use the same one that we used up here. 3 times 4 equals 12. So our 3 is a factor and our 4 is a factor. Okay? All right, moving to the next vocabulary word. Okay, which is, we had up here the associative property of multiplication. Well, now we have a different type of a property of multiplication, which is the commutative property of multiplication. Commutative property of multiplication. Okay, oops, gotta move that up. Commutative property of multiplication. Okay, and that is the order of the factors can be changed and the product stays the same. See why we learn academic vocabulary? Because then when we use it, we're not saying, well, that thing there or that number over there. If you use that academic vocabulary, it helps you identify and be more specific as to what we're talking about. Okay? All right, so the order of the factors can be changed, and the product, back to the very first word, product stays the same. And once again, using the same factors and products that I've been using all along, so you can see, we know 3 times 4 equals 12. Well, I'm going to change the order of my factors. And I'm going to put that one first. 4 times 3, well, what does that equal? It still equals 12, right? That's the commutative. It doesn't matter what your order is for multiplying. Now pay attention to the difference with the associative. The associative have groups of multiple factors. So you're changing your grouping. That's why I capitalize that. You have to keep that separate from the order of the factors versus the grouping of the factors. Okay? All right, now this next one, super hard. Super crazy hard. It's going to take so much work to memorize this one. Be ready, 5th graders. Be ready. Make sure I have enough room because it's a tough one. You really got to put a lot of brain power into this one. This one is called the zero property of multiplication. Zero. I always cross my Z's. It's not a proper way to do it, but sometimes my 2's look like Z's. So to make sure you can tell the difference, although why would I have a 2 in front of an ERO? I don't know. But I like to cross it just to make sure that you know that it's a Z, okay? So the zero property of multiplication. Here's your definition. Super hard. It's going to work real hard to memorize this one, okay? When you multiply any number by 0, the product is 0. Mind blown, right? You'll learn. I get really sarcastic sometimes. When it's super easy, I play around with your brain a little bit, mess with you a little bit, okay? 0 property of multiplication. When multiplying any number by 0, the product is always 0, okay? When you multiply A-N-Y, capitalized, underlined, so for major emphasis, when you multiply any number by 0, the, product, more vocabulary. Product is 0, all caps. Woohoo! Here's your example. 3 times 0 equals, you got it, 0. Now, let's throw in another one just to mess with your head a little bit. It's still using the 0 property of multiplication, but I want you to see how it can mess some people up. You do have to be careful, not being sarcastic here. So if we have a grouping, like in the associative property, we group some factors together. We have 3 times 4 grouped together times 0. It's going to be the same, again, using that associative property of multiplication. 3 times 4 times 0. Well, it still equals 0. All of that equals 0, and you'll see. So if we do 3 times 4, well, we go, well, that's 12. Okay, I know it's blurry. I have to pull my hand back so it stops shading the writing, so you can actually see it. Okay, I'll try to make it a little darker. Okay, so you've got 3 times 4 is 12, but you're not finished, right? Because then you're going to multiply it by 0. You're going to bring that 3 down, and you're going to multiply 4 times 0, which is 0. So, what's 12 times 0? 0. What is 3 times 0? 0. Right? So, even if you start out with actual digits, actual factors, once you throw that 0 in the mix and you're multiplying, it's 0. Okay? So, be aware of that. Okay, we have one more vocabulary word that we are going to fit in here, and let's see here. Topic 3, vocab continued. Okay, so our last one is the identity property of multiplication. Okay, identity property of multiplication. So the identity property of multiplication is when you multiply any number by 1, the product is that same number, okay? When you multiply, now notice I didn't fold it, but it is in those columns, okay? When you multiply any number by 1, the product, is that same number. Okay, so for example, 999 times 1 equals 999, right? Or we could have, I kind of have to write smaller, that number, let me put in the comma where it goes, see, 1, 2, 3, comma, times 1, well, it's still 56,789. 56,789. Okay, it doesn't matter. Whatever number you start with times 1 is that same number. Now notice, this is how I remember it. The identity property starts with an I. And a capital I could almost look like